The NFL has produced legends and unforgettable moments, but behind the highlights, some players leave a trail of chaos. You got an NFL player hauled into court, accused of hurling furniture off a high-rise balcony like he was tossing hay bales. From blowing his stack in Pittsburgh to a public meltdown down in Tampa Bay, Antonio Brown turned every team he touched into a fiery car wreck. Antonio Brown showed up on a screen in a South Florida courtroom come Wednesday, staring down the barrel of an attempted murder charge. And now, after holding his tongue for years, Tom Brady's finally spilling the beans on why so many NFL boys can't stomach Antonio Brown. AB's tale is one part pure genius and two parts pure chaos, a career where million-dollar talent crashed headfirst into 10-cent judgment. He crept into the NFL quiet as a church mouse, a sixth-round pick out of Central Michigan. Small fella, but quicker than a hiccup. Mike Tomlin spotted him way back in 2010. The potential was there. Tomlin said the boy had grown man hands and could get open in a phone booth, but he still had a long row to hoe. And Brown had miles to go all right, but he traveled further than anybody reckoned, causing a ruckus both on and off the grass. Over the next few years, he became the biggest show in the league, stringing together 6 straight seasons with over 100 catches and 1,200 yards. That ain't beanbag. By the numbers, he was top shelf. But while his talent was solid as a rock, his career started looking less like a Hall of Fame bid and more like a soap opera. The first big crack in the foundation happened in Pittsburgh after a heck of a playoff game against the Chiefs in January 2017, 6 catches, 100 yards plus. Most folks would celebrate quiet-like, but not Antonio. He broadcast the whole locker room on Facebook Live, airing out dirty laundry and Coach Tomlin's private words about the Patriots. The league hit his wallet, but the stain on his reputation wasn't washing out. Brown made it clear rules were just suggestions to him, and he was hungry for attention like a stray dog for a bone. Next year, things went from bad to worse. In 2018, he got slapped with lawsuits for tossing furniture off his balcony, nearly flattening a 2-year-old toddler down below. Few weeks later, he gets pulled over doing over 100 in a 45 in his Porsche. Then he squares up with Big Ben at practice and skips work, forcing the Steelers to sit him down for Week 17. That game was the last nail in the coffin for his time in Steel City. Insiders say the writing was on the wall anyway. By February 2019, Brown tweets goodbye, ready to take his circus to a new town. So Oakland was supposed to be a fresh start, a clean slate. Steelers shipped him to the Raiders for a 3rd and 5th round pick, pennies on the dollar for a player like that. But AB wasn't fixin' to play by nobody's rules but his own. He rolls into Raiders camp in July 2019 in true AB fashion, but before he breaks a sweat, he freezes his feet off in a cryotherapy mishap. Can't make this stuff up. Right after that, he storms off over a helmet beef, refusing to wear the one the league stamped approved. Even after begging the NFL and coming back, he quits practice again because he couldn't wear his old lid. Tensions were hotter than Texas asphalt in July. Brown posts a picture of a $54,000 fine letter, captioning, "When your own team wants to hate, everybody pays." Later that day, he gets in the GM's face on the field till the boys had to separate him. Making up didn't last as long as a snowflake in a furnace. Brown said sorry to the team, and John Gruden declared they were ready to move forward. But hours later, Brown puts a private call with Gruden on YouTube, pouring gas on the fire. Raiders fined him $215,000 and voided $30 million. That's a lot of cheddar gone. Brown jumps on Instagram saying, "You're gonna piss a lot of folks off when you start doing what's best for you." Talking about, "I ain't mad. I just want the freedom to prove 'em all wrong." Hours later, the Raiders kicked him out the door, but wouldn't you know it, he lands in New England next. Signed a 1-year deal with the Pats worth up to $15 million, but right out the gate, a lawsuit hits him from a trainer crying assault. Not 2 weeks later, the Pats cut him loose after 1 game. Brown tweets, "Thanks for the shot. Marathon continues." Social media turned into his 6-shooter, firing shots at everybody. Between gigs, he mocked Pittsburgh fans and his old teammate Juju, blaming the kid for stealing his shine. Every post just dug the hole deeper. In 2020, after an 8-game timeout from the league, he joined the Bucs mid-season. Drama aside, the man could ball. 8 games, 45 catches, nearly 500 yards, and 4 scores. Then came the big dance, Super Bowl 55. Brown scored a touchdown, helping the Bucs stomp the Chiefs 31-9. Finally got his ring. Folks thought maybe he'd straightened out, but for Brown, that was just the calm before the storm. Next season, the crazy train kept rolling. Missed time, hurt, then got suspended 3 games for a fake vax card. Came back looking sharp, but he couldn't help but shoot himself in the foot. Week 17, 2021, he quits on the Bucs right in the middle of the Jets game. Strips off his pads, throws up a peace sign, and walks off the field shirtless, leaving his brothers high and dry. Coach Arians said he was done as dinner. By 2023, AB's life was heading down a darker road. Makes his NFL antics look tame. He disappeared to Dubai for 6 months, living like a king with no consequences in sight. But come November, the chickens finally came home to roost. The U.S. Marshals hauled Brown all the way up to New Jersey, then turned right around and shipped him down to Miami. Once he hit Florida soil, things got uglier than a mud fence. He was staring down some heavy new charges, second-degree attempted murder, stemming from a dust-up outside an amateur boxing match over in Little Haiti. The law says Brown got himself mixed up in a fistfight right after the event wrapped up on May 16th. It started as a scuffle with a fella named Zulkarnain Kwame Nantambu, but it didn't stay small for long. Tempers flared, and before you knew it, lead started flying. A video popped up showing Brown on the sidewalk, pistol in hand, allegedly taking shots at Nantambu, who was ducking for cover like a frightened quail. 4 days later, Nantambu told the police Brown kept shooting, reckoning a bullet might have even grazed his neck, leaving him shaking in his boots. Now, Brown's legal team didn't waste a second fearing back. His lawyer stood firm, swearing up and down it was self-defense, claiming he hadn't no intention of killing nobody and only fired those shots to keep the wolves at bay so he could skedaddle. Even the other fella's attorney had to admit they weren't entirely sure if Nantambu actually caught a bullet or not, though they said the mark looked like a close shave. Amidst all that legal ruckus, Brown was cool as a cucumber. He walked out of that Turner Guilford Knight Correctional Center smiling like he didn't have a care in the world. Cameras caught him giving his lawyer a big ol' squeeze before heading straight for a food truck, acting as if those heavy charges weren't hanging over his head like a storm cloud. God is great, he said, sticking to the faith he's always preached. But let me tell you, Brown's life had turned into one heck of a tightrope walk. He was stuck under house arrest with a GPS tracker strapped to his ankle, but the court still let him work to put food on the table for his 7 young'uns, with an 8th little one on the way even while the gavel was banging. Through it all, Brown stayed true to his wild self. Apologies to no one. After the dust settled from that May brawl, he hopped on X claiming he was the one got jumped by a gang trying to snatch his jewelry, and he swore he was fixing to press charges against the whole lot of them. Still, all that drama Antonio cooked up got folks plenty riled up, and even Tom Brady finally spilled the beans on why NFL players have a bone to pick with the guy. This beef between Tom Brady and Antonio Brown ain't just a spat between 2 football stars. It's a long, sad tale of God-given talent, broken trust, and a public meltdown that left fans scratching their heads in disbelief. Brown, who was lighter than a feather and quicker than lightning on the field, first crossed paths with Brady up in New England. But the real story unfolded down in Tampa Bay. Back in 2020, Brady personally stuck his neck out to get Brown in a Buccaneers jersey. He talked Coach Bruce Arians into taking a chance on him, reckoning Brown's hands could help the team. He truly wanted to see the man succeed, and for a hot minute, it actually worked. They helped bring home the trophy in Super Bowl 55. Brown played well, and Brady stood by him like a brother, defending him through mistakes and social media nonsense. But behind the curtain, things were turning sour. Come May of 2021, Brady allegedly sent a private text that ended up being front-page news. TMZ got a hold of it after Brown posted it and then tried to scrub it. That message was sharper than a serpent's tooth, but it was the gospel truth. He told him straight, "You are demonstrating mighty poor decisions and talking poorly to folks who have bent over backwards to help you. You're acting selfish, and frankly, people are worn out by your wild mood swings." Brady didn't hold his tongue there. He said, "When I met you, you were humble, ready to learn, and hungry to fix up your life. In a short spell, you did just that, achieved great things, and looked to be headed down the right road for the long haul. But sad to say, you've slid right back into being an immature young buck, selfish, unreasonable, and completely irresponsible." I'll tell you what, I'm mighty disappointed in how you've been carrying on lately. Seems you've lost that humility and that spark you had. You swapped out the good folks who genuinely wanted you to win for a crowd that's out of control, and they're leading you straight into a ditch. That wasn't just some random chatter. It came after months of Brown acting a fool. Brady was trying to set him straight, but Brown decided to air the laundry in public. Posting those texts lit a firestorm. Brown tried to paint Brady as looking down his nose at him, turning private advice into a public circus. Well, the whole NFL world rallied right behind Brady on that one. Everyone saw a quarterback trying to guide a stray sheep, and the receiver just spit in his face. Naturally, things went from bad to worse. 8 months down the line, he threw his biggest fit yet, ripped his jersey off right in the middle of a game against the Jets, and marched off the field. That crazy stunt got him kicked off the Bucs and pretty much put a tombstone on his NFL days. But truth be told, money troubles had been stewing long before that. Word was, Brady was fed up with Brown's agent, calling him out over how they were handling the deal. Eventually, Brown put ink to paper on a 1-year deal worth $3,100,000, loaded with incentives. But that didn't stop the drama train. Now his paycheck depended on Brady throwing him the ball. By week 17, Brown was fuming publicly about not getting enough targets. Coach Arians said Brown was throwing a fit at halftime because the ball wasn't coming his way. Folks reckon it was mostly about the money. The man had bonuses for catching 50 and 70 balls, racking up 600 and 800 yards, and scoring 5 and 7 touchdowns. Missing those marks meant kissing $1 million goodbye. Despite the mess, Brady kept trying to help, urging him via text to see a head doctor and keep his mind right. But Brown took those kind words and used them as ammo on social media, mocking the advice and burning that bridge right to the ground. The feud got uglier than homemade sin when Brown started attacking Brady's personal life. He kept poking fun at Brady's divorce from Gisele Bündchen, claiming Brady only liked him for football. On a podcast, he flat out said, "Tom Brady's my friend. Why? 'Cause I can play ball. He needs me to win." Folks got different ideas of what a friend is. Through it all, Brady kept it classy. He refused to get down in the mud, dodging reporter questions and staying cool as a summer breeze. But behind closed doors, word is he was hurt. A source told the papers, Tom looked after Antonio for a long time and held him up through all his highs and lows. Now, once Antonio started running his mouth about Tom, getting uglier than a mud fence in a rainstorm, Tom just kept his nose clean and walked the high path. But that friendship's gone south faster than a duck in winter these past few years, and there ain't no love lost there now. Then the law came knocking. Brown got himself tangled up in an attempted murder accusation at a boxing match down in Florida in 2024, then lit out for Dubai before they hauled him back to the States. Word is, Brady's washed his hands of the mess, won't lift a finger for him no more. That mentorship and kinship that once defined him was dead as a doornail. Brady has said time and again he only ever wanted the best for the fella. Sitting on Logan Paul's impulsive show, he laid it out plain. "I wanted the best for him. I reckon I saw a spark in him," Brady said. "Thought if he was put in the right pasture, he'd be something fierce not just for the team but for his life. I always root for folks to prosper." But Brown's choices kept chopping that support down at the knees. From fussing over contracts and hollering insults to acting wilder than a bucking bronco during games and getting in legal hot water, Brown burned every bridge he crossed just to watch him glow. Now, to be fair, it weren't all vinegar and thorns. Down in Tampa Bay, Brady fought like a wildcat to get Brown on the roster. And Brown delivered, snagging 45 catches for 483 yards and 4 touchdowns across 8 games during that Super Bowl tear. That glory came straight from Brady, trusting him to do the job. But even a ring on the finger couldn't outweigh the tornado of trouble Brown brought into the locker room. Looking back, the Brady-Brown saga is a classic tale of talent locking horns with temperament. Brown had the hands to be a legend, sure as shooting, but his ego was big as Texas, and his habit of lighting fires alienated every coach and teammate in sight. Brady was steady as a rock, professional, and trying to guide him, but you can't steer a man who don't want to be led. Now, let's take a gander at the other NFL boys who had a bone to pick with Antonio Brown. Antonio Brown and Ben Roethlisberger spent nearly 10 years sharing the field in Pittsburgh, forming one of the most lethal quarterback-receiver duos this league ever laid eyes on. From 2010 to 2018, The numbers tell the tale of just how dangerous they were when they were clicking. Roethlisberger played 129 games in that stretch, slinging 3,084 passes for 41,049 yards, with 275 touchdowns and 129 picks. Brown suited up for 130 games, hauling in 837 passes for 11,207 yards and 74 trips to the end zone. On the grass, they were smooth as butter, but behind closed doors, things were fixin' to go sour. Folks in the building say they approached the game like two different species. Brown treated every practice like it was the Super Bowl, running full tilt in every drill, even when catching balls from the backups and the third stringers. When Big Ben was taking a breather, former long snapper Cameron Canaday recalled Brown's grind during camp, swearing he was always the hardest working man in cleats. He said Brown's fire never dimmed, and that sparked some friction, cause Roethlisberger, being an old warhorse with 2 rings and a body full of aches, took it a mite easier in practice. Roethlisberger often saved his legs during the week, focusing on getting right for game day, a privilege he figured he'd earned after all those years in the trenches. That difference in style started festering like a splinter you can't get out. Brown wanted more live reps with his quarterback during the week, reckoning that missing those throws messed up their timmin' come Sunday. When the offense sputtered or wires got crossed, Brown took it as proof that he and Roethlisberger were riding different trails mentally. Canaday said Brown's frustration came from expecting every soul to have his level of urgency, and when they didn't, the milk went bad real quick. Things finally boiled over after a loss to the Denver Broncos in 2018. Roethlisberger called Brown out on his radio show, blaming a bad route for an interception. That comment rang through the locker room like a shotgun blast, and didn't sit right with Brown, who felt dirty laundry ought to stay in the hamper. Add that to the grumbling about practice, and the pot was fixin' to overflow. The final straw broke late in the 2018 season. During a walkthrough right before Week 17, Brown and Roethlisberger got into a heated jowing match. Brown stormed out of the facility and didn't show his face for practice the rest of the week. The team listed him with a knee injury at first, but folks quickly realized it was disciplinary, plain and simple. Pittsburgh sat him down for the season finale, and with the Steelers missing the playoffs, that was the last time Brown wore the black and gold. They shipped him off to the Raiders once the offseason hit. Once he shook the dust of Pittsburgh off his boots, Brown didn't hold back on Roethlisberger. He accused Big Ben of acting like he owned the place, claiming the quarterback felt he could trash-talk teammates without paying the piper. Brown said the boys only took it cause of Ben's clout. The bickering kept on through the 2019 offseason, with Brown firing back at Roethlisberger in interviews and telling him to quit harping on the past. Their back and forth during that spell showed just how rotten the relationship had gotten. Despite all the fussing and fighting, Brown eventually owned up to his part in the mess. Down the road, he expressed some regret, saying he let his emotions and the pressure get the best of him. He even posted messages singing Roethlisberger's praises, calling him the best gunslinger he ever played with, and saying their connection was something special he never found again. For his part, Roethlisberger said he wishes he'd handled the wrangling a bit differently, too. Now, Ryan Clark and Antonio Brown weren't just folks wearing the same jersey for the Steelers. They started as buddies, turned into rivals, and wound up in one of the biggest public feuds that franchise had seen in a dog's age. Clark was a respected vet, one of the loudest voices in the room. Brown was the hungry young buck, explosive and full of ambition, with a personality loud enough to wake the neighbors. At first, they were thick as thieves. Clark even helped the rookie with trainers and life issues. But the minute Brown's star started rising, the ice started cracking. The turning point hit in 2012 during training camp. Same day, Brown signed a monster contract that made him one of the richest men on the team. During one-on-ones, a defensive back slapped Brown right upside the helmet, a move that's against the rules even when you're just practicing. Brown didn't take that lying down. The next rep, he slapped the defender back, got open, and caught the ball. Defensive coordinator Dick LeBeau jumped in, madder than a wet hen, and Brown just blew his top. He was cussing a blue streak at LeBeau, standing his ground and swearing he wouldn't take no disrespect from a living soul, be it coach or player. That's when the defense came charging in like a herd of stampeding bulls. Fellas from both sides jumped into the fray, and the whole drill turned into a good old-fashioned Donnybrook. Even Troy Polamalu got mixed up in the dust-up. Tempers flared hotter than a Texas summer, and practice fell apart quicker than a $2 suitcase. Ryan Clark was way over yonder across the field when the ruckus started, but the second he heard Brown hollering about his big new contract, Clark just snapped. He bellowed out, "They shouldn't have never paid that man." I knew that money would change him. Them words stuck like a burr under Brown's saddle for years, and he's brought 'em up time and again as proof that green-eyed jealousy was at the heart of their feud. Once Clark hung up his cleats and took a desk job at ESPN, things went from bad to worse. Clark was one of the first folks to really tear into Brown's antics without holding back. Showing up late, that sour attitude, throwing hiss fits on the sidelines, and eventually, the total circus that marked the bitter end of Brown's days in Pittsburgh. Clark went on First Take and called it like he saw it: unprofessional, toxic, and straight-up poison to the team. Brown fired back the only way he knows how, guns blazing for the whole world to see. He took to X and tore into him, calling Clark a sellout and accusing him of using that TV time just to take pot shots at him for a little bit of clout. Y'all let us know what you reckon down in the comments. And before you hit the trail, don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe to NFL Facts so you don't miss the next round.